Before we get started, let's talk about the elephant in the room. That is my facial hair, or lack thereof. I did a two-prong attack on my face. Number one, wonderful time on Saturday. I was part of the Raid Shadow Legends Assemble with the Saffron Man. I'll leave a link in the description down below. Make sure you check that out for the podcast. We all dressed up, and in order to fully commit myself to the cause, I did shave to be able to do the costume that I wanted to do. So that's the first part. Secondly, there's kind of two reasons for that, and that is this is the month of Movember, and we're going to be doing Movember. There'll be a link for that in the description down below if you want to donate to mental health and men's health causes throughout the month of November. It'll be down there, and I'll be doing that. And here's the deal. What I'm going to do is we're going to grow this baby back out. No shaving at all, no trimming, no nothing. I'm going to let everything go. And then on Twitch, we're going to run a wonderful couple of goals. Number one, if I hit 100 subs on Twitch in the month of November, then I will donate 50% of those proceeds to the cause of Movember. I will donate it. You'll be able to see it on my page. If we can hit our stretch goal of 200 subs, I know that's a lot, but it's possible with your help. Then not only will I do 50% of the proceeds, but I will also allow a streamer chosen shave, which means on Friday night, the closest on the end of November, I will allow you guys to decide how my facial hair gets shaven, whether that's completely off, whether you want the stash, you want like chops, you name it, I'll do it, and I'll leave it all weekend for you guys. So let me know. Let's get that done. Let's have a little fun with that and raise awareness and funds for a great cause of men's health issues. So with that out of the way, let's get right into the video. And today we're going to talk about Shatterbones. Warcry places a 15% decrease speed debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 25%. Hail attacks all enemies 3 times. Has a 50% bookable to 75% chance to decrease the turn meter by 30%. Rend attacks 1 enemy. Places a 25% increased attack buff on all allies for 1 turn if this attack is critical. So there we are. There is our run. I decided to do Dragon's Lair 20 just for trying something new out. I wanted to bring Karam back out. I had most of these other champions already in gear for previous videos, so I thought, why not give it a go? And something a little bit cheeky, a little bit fun. You can see he does some reasonable damage. We built him out for damage for the sake of this run, not the way I would recommend building him. So I'm going to show you next how we built him out for this run, just for damage testing, and then I'm going to rebuild him and show you how I suspect he is best used for his turn meter decrease. We'll maybe even do a Spider 20 run the old school way for you, just to test it out. But let's take a look at his build next. So here is my Shatterbones, and this is what we kind of put out. I wanted to see what he could do for damage. It's always important to understand what sort of damage you can get and what sort of damage potential he has, and then what you're sacrificing by doing it other ways. Obviously, you can see he has some really slow speed, but we got that crit damage and that attack up pretty high in order just to kind of test. Now, I do not recommend building him this way. This isn't where he's going to show and shine the best, even though he is an attack-based champion. He does have the 60% crit damage. There is some thought, I guess, from Plarium's point, but really, the skills that are the most apt for him is his Warcry level 3, which has that decreased speed on all enemies and fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. And of course, the attacks all enemies 3 times, has a 50% chance, bookable to 75, of course, for that turn meter by 30%. And this, to me, screams Spider. So we're going to actually build them out for the Spider, and this would be an alternate to Sylar, an alternate to really any turn meter reducing champion. When you're not doing full speed runs in the Spider, you're doing 20 and you're trying to get through it. So we're gonna build them out for that, and then we'll take them to the Spider. I'll show you kind of that old school weak affinity tank type run, or with, you know, miscreated monster, those sort of runs where you're just trying to keep your team up and keep them from taking turns as long as possible so that you can nuke it down with cold hearts, royal guards, that sort of thing. So let's go into that. Give me a second to rebuild them. I'll show you the rebuild, and then we'll take them into the Spider. All right, so here's our reworked Shatterbones. This is going to be for Spider 20. We're going to try him as a weak affinity tank with the added bonus of some turn meter manipulation and a speed debuff. See how this works. Here's his masteries. That's the first place we're going to go. We've got him down Retribution so he can counterattack. We've got him to War Master so he can heal himself up. He's in Lifesteal. Before we, the big difference is, before I didn't show you his previous, he had Heart of Glory, he had Helm Smasher, he had Whirlwind of Death. It's kind of a slight, how I normally do nukers, but now we're going to put him in a position where we just want him to be able to do damage, heal himself up. But the big thing is to have that Retribution. We didn't take him down the support tree, which we do. Otherwise, you may have to put him down a support tree if you need, if you just don't have the support items and the Great Hall to facilitate that. So keep that in mind. Target of, around 220 accuracy is more than enough. And as you can see here, we've brought him to 225 accuracy, 273 resistance to help against the poisons, 100% crit rate to make sure he's healing himself back up, 222 speed. We still have him pretty good attack. I would actually probably argue against maybe a little more defense, a little less attack. So here's the team we're going to use. We've got a bevy of different things. So this is a weak affinity tank and a bit of a coin flip piece as well. Shatterbones having War Master plus the lifesteal, so hopefully he heals himself up when he gets hit. We also have Apothecary for the turn meter speed boost, turn meter boost, and the heals. Tayrel for the defense down. We don't want the attack down on everyone because we need Shatterbones to take enough damage. We have two options. Either we mitigate as much damage as possible and give him a ton of health. He's an attack-based champion that's a little bit more difficult. Or we allow him to take enough damage that he might heal himself up, which is also, either way will work. Tyrell also, of course, turn meter down. Very useful against the boss. So let's see what happens here. Hopefully this will work. Now we could bring in Miscreated Monster and just this will work. But you bring a Miscreated Monster, you can put anyone in there. I don't even use a weak affinity tank back when I use Miscreated Monster. I just let them attack Coldheart and she'd still never die just because of how good he is at healing. See, there you go. He heals himself up with that skill. Very useful. He's going to take a couple hits here. We'll see if he takes enough damage that it matters. And we'll see if I have Relentless on my Apothecary as a safety valve. Hopefully that'll come into play, or maybe we won't need it, which is even better. Here we go. We're so far so good, halfway there. Oh god, every time he heals himself. Yeah, there we go. Heals himself up. Even the weak hit, that War Master proc, hitting for 98,000 is such a big deal. We're actually taking not enough damage to counterattack by the looks of it, which of course means that we don't get back to our apothecary, but I think we're just about done there anyway. So there you go. You know, it does look a little bit scary, but I have run this a bunch of times. Shatterbones, I don't know what I did differently. There's something I did change because he's not counterattacking, he's not losing quite enough health. So just keep in mind there that you need him to lose 25% of his health. 20% of his health is dead zone. You saw he died right at the end, but obviously we had enough looping and enough opportunity that we were able to win anyway. Maybe I think it's because I had Tyrell not as my lead. I think I had Royal Guard. So just keep that in mind. If you have Stagnite, the attack down, then maybe you want to take Shatterbones and just load him with HP. Don't worry about the crit rate gloves. Just give him a ton of HP, and that way will also work because then he'll just be able to take that damage and take on that damage. He's not the best champion for this, but this is the sort of outcome you have. You need a weak affinity tank. He definitely has a toolkit which is better than some because he can do the turn meter and the speed decrease on 2 of his skills, plus that A1 putting the attack up. I know it's a baby attack up, but every little bit helps for no, obviously not for the enemy max HP hits, but for every other attack that the 4 of the 5 champions are doing. So just keep that in mind. Now at this point, let's go to final thoughts and wrap this whole thing up. There you go. Final thoughts on Shatterbones. So he is a champion that I feel 2 years ago I'd be much more inclined to recommend building, because there was not as many champions to be able to do what he can do, or at least be able to do some sort of help. Where his strengths are is not in just his damage, although he does very good damage. Do not be fooled. It's not end game damage, but it's definitely middle game damage, especially that A2 with an AoE. And the fact that he can manipulate turn meter so effectively is very strong. The problem is, today, we've had the introduction of over 200 new champions, most of them epics and legendaries, that are just going to be able to either do what he does better, or just have overall stronger kits, survivability, etc., to be able to be more useful in these different scenarios. I still think if you have him on your team and you're struggling in a certain area, he might be able to help you. And Spider is a weak affinity tank. In any waves, anywhere, whether it be Doom Tower, Faction Wars, or any of the dungeons, the fact that he's got an AoE turn meter boost and an AoE turn meter decrease is very strong. But again, only if you don't have other options that can do this for you, you can bring him in, and I think he'll be useful for you. The problems with him, the reason why he's not as strong as he would have been when there was a much smaller pool, is because these other champions have just outpaced him in their stats or abilities. Take an example, the fact that he's got 13,875 health. That is very low health. That makes it very difficult to use him in the Spider. I always prefer, when I'm doing weak affinity tank, to have a tank that just takes 0 damage. It takes so little damage that even as a weak affinity, it doesn't matter. He'll get his turns and heal himself up really quickly. If I had 19,000 HP on this guy, or 1,400 defense, which of course he's an attack-based champion, so that's not exactly viable, I think he'd be much more useful. And the other things is, when you look at his kit compared to other epics nowadays, I get, because he's got, this is such a good ability that baby, the baby decreased speed is to make him not overpowered, and same with his A1 with the baby increased attack. But nowadays there are so many epics that do have the big boy decreased speed, that do have the big boy increased attack. So, and the fact that he's 75% when there's so many champions that have, well, not so many champions, but there's champions that have other unique kits or that can do this at a better one. So what would I do to make him a better champion? It's actually not as crazy as you think. I could argue, oh, give him the big here, maybe take this cooldown 1 to make it 4 turns, maybe take this to 3 turns, all that stuff. No, I think he's good as is if you make him a defense champion. So rather than having yet another attack champion in the pool of 1,000 attack champions, where so many of them are mediocre because there's so many attack champions, this is a force affinity champion. To have a force affinity defense-based champion with this kit would be way, way more useful, I think, for everyone everywhere, especially in the early to mid game. His stats, if he had 1400 defense, 881 attack, even at that 13k HP, though I would like it to be north of 15, even as a defense-based champion. I think overall, and then you keep his multipliers in line so that he can still do the damage he's doing, but as a defense-based champion, I think he would be very strong, and I think definitely in Faction Wars, but in so many other areas, I think he would be an option for people. So that is my suggestion to fix this champion, is one simple thing: change the attack to a defense, change the damage type to defense, keep the multipliers the same, and of course, swap the defense and attack numbers on his stats, and he would be usable. What do you think? Do you use Shatterbones? What do you think back then versus nowadays? You know, am I off the mark? Am I on target that he just has lost his way in the pool of so many new champions? Tell me what you think in the comments down below. Also, please do not forget, like, subscribe, and you know, Movember, I'd love to see your support. I'd love to see you on Twitch when I stream Fridays, Sundays, and sometimes Saturdays. And sorry for that long hiatus. I've been gone for a couple weeks, but really needed some mental health time, and just really needed time to get some other things in my life done. So, but we're back. So here it is. Thank you for watching the video. Please be kind, be safe, and we'll see you in the next one.